Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today I have amassed quite a few scraps recently. Now, when I say scraps, that is a loose word for me for smaller, larger, any sort of spare bits of paper that I sort of end up going into a pile. I've been working on a few projects off screen, and I have been using kind of 3 paper pads mainly. It is the Pink and Main Happy Days, the Pink and Main Bright Botanicals, and the Paper Rose Watercolours and Scribbles. So those 3. They're all very bright and beautiful, and I have been really enjoying working with them, except for now, as I said, I have all these sort of leftover, mainly weird shapes, and that's okay because this calls for some scrap busting. So today we are using up those scraps, and we are going to create some of these large style buttons. Now, I usually go ahead and I make a whole lot of these, and then I put them in my drawer. I have this little container that I keep all these little makes, and then these can be put as sort of as embellishments onto your cards and things. Now, this video kind of got long enough as is, so if you would like to see the finished cards and I can make a video where I show you how I use them and create some cards with you, then let me know in the comment section down below and I can go ahead and make that video. That's super easy. But for today, I just want to show you some of my tips and tricks for these. And even though I try not to hoard scraps here, you can see that these create the most gorgeous little stencils. So you can spray through these, do some ink blending through these. These are perfect for making bubbles. I've got videos on how to make bubbles with ink, and you can use all those gorgeous little cutouts. But look at all these gorgeous circles, these bright colors that we have. Now, I just want to show you something. If you don't have, like paper pads, then we can make our own. Like, this is a rice paper, and there should be nothing to stop you. If you have cardboard boxes or tissue boxes or, magazines or something really, really nice, or if it's too thin and you want to put it on something like this rice paper here, this is a script one from Joggles. I'm just going to put this down onto a regular piece of cardstock, and then just for fun, I'm going to add some color to this. I'm not getting out any ink pads. I'm truly just going to use whatever's left on there. This is a scrap busting session, not a sort of, get everything out session and make it perfect. So I'm just using whatever ink's left on there, going for yellows and oranges, and this is going to go over that rice paper nicely. Then I simply take 2 of the exact same dies, the circle dies, and I will run this through. I will then have a couple more buttons that are going to be good to go. But if you don't have the dies, then of course the punches are going to work fantastic for this. You can have any sizes and all sizes. You could make these huge if you wanted to as well, absolutely huge. But I prefer slightly smaller just because that's what I find I tend to lean towards. I have made some really big ones of these, and albeit I think they're very, very cute, I find that this is the size that I reach for. Now, I have my Crop-A-Dile here because this is going to punch some of the holes, and also I'm going to do eyelets in my buttons. I just find all these extra little details to make them look, a bit more realistic perhaps. So I sometimes, if I can't sort of judge it nicely, I will use a pen to put a little black dot, and that helps me because when I'm using this machine and I sort of can't see the entire circle, I find that I sometimes go a little bit skew with where I'm punching my holes. So I just put a little black dot with a marker pen, and then I can punch out 2 of the holes. I grab some eyelets. I have a random selection here, and then I just flatten them out with the machine. I do 2 on the smaller buttons, and then I tend to do 4 on the larger ones. But, to each their own. You go for gold. Now, I'm going to show you a few different ways of doing these, and again, we're going to keep stepping these up and adding more bits and pieces in to make them really fun and have their own unique style. But you can do silver, gold, brass, black, white. I have a whole lot of colored ones that I do as well. If you don't want to ink up around the edges, you can always take a marker pen and just go around the edges. Again, all those finishing touches. I do tend to take some brown ink, some ground espresso I have found works really well, and it's quite a versatile color for all the different colors that I have. But you could indeed, like for the yellow, you could take, either a darker yellow or an orange or a red or something like that and go around the outside. But I just find for more generic, so I can sort of, suit them into lots of projects rather than narrowing it down, I find that by just using the light brown ink, like a light dusting of it around the outside, that makes them more versatile for me anyway. But that's just, personal preference. Now, all of these papers are gorgeous. I honestly could use either side of them. But what I also like to do is make sure that I have several of one pattern if I can. Because, again, sometimes I want to grab just one and make it random, and you can pile them up with flowers and lace and all sorts of things behind them. But other times I really like to make like a card out of them, and so I might want several that are going to be the same design or pattern or shade. So for example, of the purples here, I have lots of different purples. They all came from the same paper pad, so they all match. So that will be handy going forward. This is the French script one that I made out of the rice paper. You just want to use a nice strong glue behind it. Some permanent glue sticks are going to be really perfect. I can't find my glue stick at the minute, so I did use some liquid glue to pop this down, but all of it is going to work. And then again, popping the regular brown ink around the outside. Now in the yellow button, I did some yellow eyelets to suit. These are some grey ones in here. I also want to show you another little tip I have, and I love this one for, going a little bit fancier. I roll the button along my Versamark sticky embossing ink pad, and so that gets, that sticky ink all around the edges, and of course they roll really nicely in your hand, which makes life a whole lot easier. And then you could choose any color, but I tend to do the gold. Again, the little knack to this is I just tip some on my paper, and then I hold my fingers in the middle and I roll the wheel along, and it just picks up some of that embossing powder, and that way I get a nice even coating of the gold around the outside. And then I can of course heat set it, hold onto it with a little pair of reverse tweezers, and I get this gorgeous gold edging. Now of course if you've got the gold eyelets, I think that matches nicely, but it doesn't necessarily have to either. Really, really simple to create these gorgeous looking buttons, and yet they come out looking so cute. A great scrap buster. I do tend to make these assembly style, cutting out all of the circles in one hit, and then doing all of the eyelets in one hit, and then doing all of the embossing in one hit. It just makes for a really fun little crafting time when I don't necessarily have to have an end project in mind, but it makes me feel like I'm making use of my scraps. I'm getting rid of that scrap pile that's sitting there beside me. So all of those things help me feel productive and get me to enjoy that crafty time as well. So you can see that there are lots of cute little buttons here that I can do with the gold. You can do silver. I mean, you can do yellow embossing. If you like the look of it around the edges, then, do whatever colors that you have. The world is your oyster. If you don't want to do that, then what you can do is you can run it through some pigment ink, exactly like I am doing with the embossing powder ink there, but run it through a pigment ink pad. Like say for example, if I wanted green embossing powder, but I don't have green embossing powder, I would run it through like a wheel on the green pigment ink, and then have some clear embossing powder that I would run it through, and that's going to give me a similar look. And then of course from here, again, we can step it up again by adding some thread or some ribbon or some even paper scraps, even like cardstock paper strips. You can thread them through here just to give them that extra little look. Now, I love a good bit of twine, and I also love a good bit of twine because it's versatile. Again, it sort of goes with every project. No matter what my color scheme is, no matter, what project I'm sort of working on, that means I am more likely to be able to dip into my buttons and find something that's generic. Or if I'm going to do like a yellow button, then I might put a contrasting purple ribbon through the center. Now, of course, there's lots of different ways to thread this through, and I just really have fun, and you'll see that I thread them in all different patterns. Some of them just go, straight forward, up and down like that, two separate one. Others I do in a crisscross pattern, all the things that you would probably do to sew on buttons as well. And truly, again, this is where you can use up all those little things all those little scraps and ribbons and bits and pieces that you've been collecting. So get out your stash, have a look through it, see what you think you can use. You can skip the step of the eyelets if you would like to. You certainly don't have to have that part of it, but these just make for great, gorgeous little embellishments. There's something that's not, you know, flowers or birds or love hearts, and that's why I quite like them for card making. Something really generic, and yet you can make some gorgeous birthday cards out of these. So again, if you'd like me to go ahead and make some more cards, this video is long enough as is, so I won't do them here, but if you'd like me to, then I can do another video, super simple, because I am going to do some anyway, but I might record it for you if you're interested, so let me know in the comment section down below. But other than that, I hope that you've enjoyed this scrap busting session. I'm having a few of them at the moment because it's coming to that time of year where I want to, you know, move things along and keep my scrap pile looking under control. So let me know what you think of the buttons, and other than that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to making it to the end of my video, and I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, bye!